Math Studies, Paper 2, and this time is from November 16. Question 1 about the statistics. In the month before their IB diploma examinations, 8 male students recorded the number of hours they spent on social media. For each student, the number of hours spent on social media X and the number of IB diploma points obtained Y are shown in the following table. So I can see the X and the Y for 8 different students. On graph paper, draw a scatter diagram for this data. Use a scale of 2 centimeters to represent 2 hours on the x-axis, 2 centimeters for 5 hours, and 2 centimeters to represent 10 points on the y-axis. I can see my x values goes from 6, the smallest value, and maybe 40, the highest one, while my y, the smallest is 17, and the biggest, the highest is 43. So I need to take into account the minimum and the maximum while drawing the diagram. I'm not going to draw the graph, but I'm going to just show that the scale is important. This is 1 centimeter in the x, so they tell me that 2 centimeters on the x is 5 hours. So I need to do 5, 10, 20, 30, and 40, and I can stop because that was my maximum. And in the y-axis is also 2 centimeters, if that's one, this is 2 centimeters, is 10 points in the IB exam. So I'm going to write down the 10, the 20, 30, 40, I need the 45 probably. So the scale is correct. I need to label properly the axis. This is X and this is Y, or hours spent in social media and points obtained in the IB test. The graph should look like something like this. Here you just need to put the points. You don't have any mean and any line for the moment. Question B, use your graphic display calculator to find X the mean number of hours and Y mean the mean number of IB diploma points. So that's a calculator question. You need to go to Stat Edit, put all the values in the list 1 of the X, put all the values of Y in the list 2, and then you will go to Stat Calculation, 1 variable statistics. They will be asking you for list 1. For the list 1, you will start saying, well, it's your list 1, because for you is the your X values. The frequency list, you can leave it empty. There is no frequency list. You calculate, and between a lot of other information, you get the mean of the X, that is 21. So you need to repeat the same procedure again, stat calc 1 variable statistic, but this time you should use another list. You should go, let me use another color. You should use the list 2. So you replace this, you use your list 2. Your list 2 corresponds to your Y. Again, frequency list is going to be empty, and it gives you another X mean that for you is your Y mean. And the calculator gives you the value of 31. That will be the answer. Plot the point on your scatter diagram and label this point M. So you just need to put your 21, 31 in the right position. Here it is. So you go again to the calculator, stat, calc, but this time you're going to do the linear regression, linreg. When you do that, they ask you for what is your X list. In your case, you want the list 1. What is the Y list? You want the list 2. And the frequency list, you leave it empty and you calculate. So I get a lot of information from the calculator. I have the line with a value of A of minus 0.76 and so on, a B 4697 and so on. But they're asking me about the Pearson, which is the R. So that's the value I'm looking for. Remember that I would like to have 3 significant figures, so I rewrite that as 0.973. By the way, I can see it's a negative correlation and it's strong. 0.9 is a strong value. Next question E, they are asking for the equation of the regression line on Y on X for the male students. So I already have the information here. I need to write this down as an equation. So I just need to write down the equation, but making sure that I'm writing 3 significant figures here and 3 significant figures here. So I end up with the following equation. And now draw the regression line in this scatter diagram. To do that, I just need to pick up on a value here, which is the y-intercept. That's a value that I will put in my scatter plot, the 47. And the second point to draw my line, well, I do know that it's passing through M. So I will use this as a second point. Instead of putting here any value, I could also put here a value. So the simplest will be to use the M value that I already put, and as a second point to use the 47 with my y-intercept, and between these 2 points, just with a ruler, please, draw a line. If I don't remember that I'm going through M, well, I have an equation. I could have used any X value, maybe the 20, the 25, the 35, find out which value corresponds in Y, because I have an equation, and draw this as a second point. But the easiest will be to use the y-intercept. It's always there, you see, and the point we already know. 10 female students also recorded the number of hours they spent on social media in the month before their IB diploma examination. Each of these female students spent between 3 and 30 hours. Oh, they're giving me a range. The equation of the regression line, y on x, for these 10 female students, they give it to me, is a typical line, but my slope is a fraction and my y-intercept is a fraction. An 11th girl spent 34 hours on social media in the month before her IB diploma examination. Use the given equation of the regression to estimate the number of IB diploma points that this girl obtained, and write down a reason why this estimate is not reliable. So this 11th girl, the number of hours is the X. I'm going to plug it here, do the calculation, get a Y. Probably it's not going to be a good value. And what's the reason? Well, she spent too many hours, and the number of hours are outside of the range. Is an extrapolation. So this line may not be reliable at all, because I haven't looked at this data. So I'm gonna just use the function they give me, the linear function they give me. The only thing is that instead of putting an x, I'm gonna put the value of the hours of this 11th girl, that is 34. I plug this into the calculator, and that corresponds to 19 points. The last question is, well, why this 19 points is not reliable? Well, because it's out of range. What's out of range? Well, the 34 is out of range, not the 19. How do we call what is out of range? This is an extrapolation. So you have been taking data in a specific range, and with this data you have generated a function that fits well. Now, out of the range, you don't know, maybe it's not linear anymore, so it's an extrapolation. And that's the end of the paper, the question at least.